Silver's up over 200% from just over $28 to now over $94 US. We're at $130 Canadian for the first time ever today. We're seeing 5% moves, 7% moves every single day. So it's definitely exciting, but it's also worrisome because it's definitely signaling something much bigger happening behind the scenes in the banking system, or even just in the silver market alone. There's major shortages at play right now. China, effective January 1st, is no longer making it easy to export silver outside of the country. There's only a handful of companies that are now able to export, and the Chinese government has to approve every single one. So that's going to cause major shortages in the US market and the rest of the Western countries as well.
All right, welcome to episode 32 with all the recent hype on silver. Episode 32 will be devoted to silver because we have a lot of questions of people inquiring about silver. This is everything you'll need to know about investing in silver. I'm Marcello, your co-host, and Michael Piccioni, the host of the Gold Awakening podcast. And let's get right into it. Let's talk about the price. Why is silver exploding right now? Obviously, you predicted. If you go back to the other episodes we've had, Michael's been stating this for the 2 years we've been together on this podcast since day one, that this is going to take off, and now it finally has. And let's talk about it. What's going on? Why are we on fire, silver?
Yeah, it's exciting times. It's been the best performing asset in the world over the last 13 months. Silver's up over 200%. From just over $28 to now over $94 US. We're at $130 Canadian for the first time ever today. So again, making new all-time highs every single week now. We're seeing 5% moves, 7% moves every single day. So it's definitely exciting, but it's also worrisome because it's definitely signaling something much bigger happening behind the scenes in the banking system, or even just in the silver market alone. There's major shortages at play right now. China, effective January 1st, is no longer making it easy to export silver outside of the country. There's only a handful of companies that are now able to export, and they have to approve. The Chinese government has to approve every single one. So that's going to cause major shortages in the US market and the rest of the Western countries as well. Because I think about 20%, 15 to 20% of the annual supply that the United States and the West countries get comes from China. So China exports over 100 million ounces a year, and that is going to go down significantly because of these new changes. Obviously, the United States just announced that silver is a critical metal as well for the first time ever. So obviously, the United States is saying how important silver actually is for the United States, for their army, for the war, for technology, AI. Everything in this world requires silver in this new AI world, and we can't take that chance of our countries running out of silver, because that's the risk that we're at right now. And you're starting to see companies like Tesla. Elon Musk just made a comment about how this is really bad, that China won't be exporting their silver to the rest of the world. So it's well known right now, the shortages that are occurring in the silver market. So for the last 5 years now, there's been an average of a 200 million ounce shortfall every single year. So that's close to 1 billion ounces of silver over the last 5 years that they've had to scramble and go around the world and find sources where they could buy their above ground silver at a premium. And so right now what we're seeing a premium in the Shanghai market that is almost 10% higher than the New York prices. So that's your physical market in the Shanghai market, and then your paper market is in New York. The physical market is actually trading at 10% higher, which is the first time that's ever happened. Usually it's 0.5%, 0.25%, and now we're seeing 7, 8, 9, 10% difference between the price in Shanghai and the price in New York.
On this shortages of silver, is the retail going to hurt that now that everybody's getting in? The silver's a really hot asset. which was I believe, the top performing asset in
So, Mike,
2025,
more
correct? Is that going to affect the shortages or just because of the large demand? And can you elaborate on that with AI and solar panels, EVs, and the
Yeah.
list goes on and on?
So yeah, silver's the best conductor of electricity in the world out of all metals out there. It's number one. Copper's number two, and gold is number three. So silver's used in all technology products: your cell phones, your laptops, your TVs, computers. And then now the new growth areas are solar panels because of all the new green initiatives in China and India. India, as an example, imported 350 million ounces in 2025, which is the most they've ever purchased, which is also about 35% of the annual supply. One country alone purchased 350 million ounces. They only produce a billion ounces a year. So it's a huge amount. Um, so you got the green initiatives, electric cars as well as a big growth area that is going to be happening. You have these new batteries that are being created. Samsung just came out with one that is, you can now drive 9 hours in your electric car, and that is going to require 31 ounces, a kilo of silver. The old batteries only required less than 1 ounce of silver. So now these new batteries are going to require 30 times the amount of silver. So that's a big, big. So people have done the math on this based off of where they think electric cars are going to be. Apparently, the electric car industry alone with these new batteries would take up 100% of the annual supply of silver just for these batteries alone,
You're saying just for EV
just
battery.
for EV batteries. So, I mean,
So we don't have enough silver.
there's not enough silver in the world to accomplish any of these green initiatives they're looking for. Now, very smart by India and China to really make their whole country go solar because why not do that while silver is cheap? Obviously, Canada and the United States haven't jumped on board yet to that level, but it looks like India wants their whole country powered by solar, which is really smart. China as well. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how, now the other
We rely on solar. Is solar reliable? Like, is
very
that
it's very reliable. Now, the downside, so what they're looking to do is move away from silver and move to copper for solar panels. Problem is, those solar panels won't last nearly as long. The silver holds up to that heat and that combustion that much better than copper. So those solar panels might only last 5 to 10 years, where the current ones last much longer, have a much longer lifeline.
so silver versus copper? Silver wins all day, and
No
for
comparison.
no comparison.
No comparison, but they will look for cheaper alternatives in the future. But that's going to take years and years and years to create that technology, to create these new plants, to even build those new panels. So again, I wouldn't worry about that in terms of eating into the supply of silver. AI is another big thing. All the new AI that is going to be needed for our world all requires silver. Um, Again, silver, the military requires huge amounts of silver as well, and that's not even included in the numbers from the Silver Institute. So that's another reason I think the United States announced it's a critical metal. It's not only they need it for the green initiatives and technology, but they also need it for military purposes. So yeah, right now there's a war on for silver, and the retail market you asked about. Right now, we're starting to see shortages. We're currently waiting 3 to 5 weeks for certain products, Royal Canadian Mint, for example. Even the regular buffaloes, which there's usually no wait times on those. We're even waiting 3 to 5 weeks on those now as well. The U.S. Mint just announced they're no longer going to be producing silver eagles or selling any products for that matter, temporarily. Last year, the U.S. Mint produced the least amount of eagles they ever have in history. So the governments are starting to produce less because they know the shortages exist. So the U.S. Mint, the Canadian Mint, they're all going to produce less and less and less, which is going to cause major shortages in the physical silver market at the retail level. So right now, it's really difficult for me to source certain products, which is causing us to have to raise our prices because our wholesalers have increased their pricing because it's really, really difficult to get now. And if I had to guess, the shortages are going to get much, much worse as the retail market grows in 2026, as the price of silver continues to go higher. If we see any type of topping out of the stock market, I think you're really going to see an influx of people rush into precious metals. Because I think that's the one thing that's holding people back from investing in precious metals currently, is they're still doing okay in their stocks. They're at all-time highs. They might have made 15% last year. They met with their financial advisor. On their mind, everything's okay. They don't realize the opportunities that exist in some of these other asset classes, like silver. Silver went up over 200% last year, 10 times, 10 to 20 times greater than the stock market. And I expect that trend to continue for the next several years. I think you're going to see a shift from regular investment asset classes, stocks, bonds, and real estate, and those are all going to be moving into commodities. Gold, silver, oil, water, agriculture. Commodities is where the new bull market will be entering. Silver will be leading the way, in my opinion, because it's been suppressed for so long. It's the cheapest asset in the world, and it's the one asset that is seeing more shortages than any other commodity out there in the world today.
Wow, that was a lot to take in, but it's all positive to investing in silver. From the shortages, which I want to go back on that is with and you made some predictions like silver going, it could go to 200 US, 300 US, 500. They're going to have to pivot and not use it in these industries. It'll be too expensive. What would an EV car cost? With silver
Yeah.
skyrocketing to $500 US an ounce.
So again, there's not a lot of like right now an electric car. I think it's like 20 grams of silver, so just under an
Oh,
ounce.
okay.
So now those numbers are going to be going up because there's more gadgets in these new cars, and yes, it will require more silver. But it doesn't mean that they're going to switch over from silver to other metals like copper or gold because it's just a big cost to switch technologies to recreate your whole warehouse and your assembly lines. Like it's a big undertaking to just switch from silver to something new. Not to mention silver's the best conductor. It also handles the heat the best, so it will keep its quality much longer than these other products as well. So I don't expect us to be switching to copper anytime soon. So silver is going to be your clear cut winner for all of these green initiatives that require silver.
Now, does that tie into the suppression of the silver price? And is that why? And can you elaborate to the, people that don't know much about that, but how they've
Yeah.
suppressed the silver price?
So, so that is why I've been so passionate about silver for as long as I have, because the price suppression by these banks over the past several decades is like no other. They manipulate the price of silver more than any other asset in the world by far, and it's well known. JP Morgan paid $1 billion fine a couple of years ago. They still have people in jail for rigging the precious metals market, so it's really well known. Now, if silver was priced in the way it should be and it wasn't manipulated, silver would probably be somewhere between 500 US and $1,000 US. And we're sitting here today at like $93 and we're getting really excited about it. But the truth is, we have so much further to go. I think eventually we'll be over $1,000 US. Gold will be somewhere in the $20,000 range, silver $1,000, $2,000, somewhere in a 10 to 20 to 1 ratio. Right now we're at 50 to 1. Silver is 50 times more, gold is 50 times more expensive than silver. So silver is still cheap historically speaking. That ratio should be somewhere closer to 15 to 1. Some people argue it should be 7 to 1 based off of what's coming out of the ground. They're currently mining 7 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. So that's the way they used to calculate the gold silver ratio, was based off of how much came out of the ground. They used to mine 15 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. Now we're at 7 ounces of silver for every one. So silver is becoming more scarce where gold is not. So now that ratio should be 7 to 1, which gold's at currently at almost $5,000. The ratio silver, which would say silver should be closer to $600 an ounce. If we got
Wow.
six, seven
If the
hundred dollars
ratio
an ounce.
matched, silver should
If
be
the ratio
up.
matched the way it used to for over 1,000 years. So this wasn't just a 1 year thing. This is over 1,000 years in a row. That's the way it was calculated. So there's something to that. Some people think silver will be 1 to 1 with gold. I'm not in that camp, but I do think 3 to 5 to 1, even 7 to 1, maybe 10 to 1 is very, very likely. So personally, yeah, I mean, I think silver is the best investment opportunity of our generation because of the manipulation of silver for the past several decades.
And to go on that, and you touched on that, now that, um, well, gold, Stanley Morgan, for the first time ever, and probably the history, where you've seen a lot of financial advisors do not recommend physical gold or silver. But now you see Morgan Stanley come out and they recommended 20% in your portfolio for physical gold. And we've had that in the past where, the financial advisors obviously don't recommend it for, and if you could explain why. But you've had some interest in investment firms that want to give their clients now physical gold and silver because of, the recent, gold all-time highs, now silver all-time highs. Why is it before they were totally against it? And then we've had the flip side in our experiences where we've seen financial advisors trash gold and silver.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more? Because that's what the majority of the population is getting. They're, not everybody's a self-investor or a day trader. They
Sure.
go to their banks, they got their financial advisors, just like a doctor, right? And they're telling them what to invest. So can you elaborate more on that with a financial advisor?
Yeah, so the reason it's getting popular now, or financial advisors are bringing it up, is because their clients are coming to them and saying, "Hey, silver went up 200%, gold went up 70%. My stocks are only up 5, 10%. What's going on here? Why am I not invested in precious metals? How can I invest in precious metals?" So now these financial advisors have to answer to their clients because this isn't a one-off. This is something that's going to continue. And this isn't, even if you go back to the year 2000, gold is outperforming the stock market significantly. Even since 1971, gold is up over 100 times. I mean, so people are asking questions because there's a lot of money to be made, and they're seeing the returns on gold and silver, and they're asking their financial advisor, what's going on here? Why am I not in this? And I've been talking to financial advisors for a long time, trying to get their clients into precious metals, into physical precious metals, and in addition, owning the mining companies.
Yeah.
Get your clients into gold and silver mining companies. They've been the best perform. You think gold and silver's done well? The mining companies are doing better than the physical metal itself, and they have a lot of catching up to do. Like if you go back into prior bull markets in silver and gold, these silver mining companies go up 50 to 100 times in just a few years. So that's the situation we're in right now. So for financial advisors to not have their clients in any precious metals at all, I think is you're doing a disservice to your clients. I also think it's an ignorance thing because the financial advisors don't know any reason as to why gold and silver are a good investment. You don't learn that in school. When you become a financial advisor, you don't spend 1 second learning about gold and silver. When you go to do your business degree at the University of Windsor, you don't spend 1 second learning about gold and silver. So this is a hidden asset class, and it's hidden by design. And the reason they don't want you buying gold and silver is because they want you in the US dollar. They want you trusting the currency. They want you trusting the stock market. They want you investing in real estate. They want you in traditional assets because that's where the banks need your money to be. They can't have you taking money out of the bank or going to sell a property and going into gold and silver. That will collapse the economy, and
Right.
that's what's going to happen.
Because
When you see people,
physical gold and silver is in your possession, or you could store it
yeah,
at a third party.
so you got to take your money out of stocks or out of the bank and into precious metals, and that is not what the banks want. So you ask why the banks short the price of silver and gold. That's why. The banks need people to stay invested in stocks, their bank accounts, keeping money safe in the banks, safe. Um, I mean, I think gold and silver over the next, because right now less than 1% of North Americans invest in precious metals. So it's an anomaly. People don't even know what gold and silver, where 60% or more people invested in the stock market. Meanwhile, gold's a better and silver have been a better investment than the stock market, but people don't know that. People don't know why they should own gold and silver. Their financial advisor doesn't tell them. The people that work at their bank don't tell them to invest in gold and silver. Their friends aren't telling them to invest in gold and silver. It's mostly the conspiracy theorists out there, the people who actually do the homework and think outside the box and actually study history and know that all the empires in the past have all collapsed for the exact same reasons. The Roman Empire, the Russian Empire, Spain, you go down the list, German, Weimar Republic. Every single empire in history has collapsed for the exact same reasons. The dollar collapsed. They lost faith in the dollar. The dollar went to zero, and they had to go back to a gold standard. We're at the end of the United States empire, and we're about to move to a whole new monetary system, likely backed by gold. BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and many, many other countries that are joining, they have already created a new currency called the unit, backed by 40% gold and the rest backed by commodities. It hasn't been unleashed yet to the world, but we're very, very close. So who knows what's going to happen? Is the United States going to come in and back their currency by gold before the BRIC nations do? I don't know. It's really hard to say, but we will be going back to a gold standard at some point, and you need to be invested in precious metals before that happens. Because you might even see the United States revalue the price of gold to a much higher price like they did in 1933. They revalued it from $25 to $35. Sorry, from $20 to $35. So it was like a 70, 80% increase in the price. That's probably going to happen again, but I think the revaluation will be even bigger than that. They may revalue gold to like $20,000 an ounce. And that will make the United States much stronger because they have the most gold in the world. So by revaluing the price of gold, that is really going to make the United States stronger. It'll bring the dollar down. It'll bring your purchasing power down. The people of the United States will hurt because of it, but it will make the United States stronger because people will have more faith in their currency because it's backed by gold.
Just a little touch on that. So United States has the most gold, and then I would say second would be China, my guess. And then who would be
Yes, I
third?
think China might even be first
Yeah.
if they actually were telling the truth.
And I bet you
Who
Russia's
knows
up
how
there
much
too, right?
Russia's up there, Italy's up there.
Except for us, Canada. How much do we
Canada
have?
has the least amount in the world. We have zero. We sold it all. We're the only country in the G7 that doesn't have any gold. I mean, we're set up, and if you go throughout history, after the reset happens, the countries with the most amount of gold are the ones that make the decisions in the end. So they're the ones that lead the new system. So the United States will still be a part of this new monetary system because they own the most gold. So the country that's going to have the least say and the least power will be
Will
Canada.
be us.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um,
of course.
a
So Canada's going to get walked all over again.
To touch on that more, so for the people out there that have financial advisors, and like you said, and they're steering them away from physical gold and silver, then comes you. You are Michael Petroni. You are the president of Can-Am Bullion. You sell it at your storefront, physical gold and silver, and you have canambullion.com, which you could buy gold and silver online. You've been doing this for years. You have a really good depth insight in the retail market. So someone who wants to take the initiative and say, you know what, I'm buying physical gold. Do they come see you and you provide them with a consultation and you could kind of guide them to what invest?
Exactly. Yeah, you call the store and you set up a consultation with one of our experts. You can meet with me as well. We'll sit down, we'll talk to you, understand your situation, your financial situation, what you currently own, whether it's stocks, real estate, bonds. Again, we still believe in diversity. I think being a diverse investor is really, really important. But right now, most people aren't. Most people are sitting in stocks or bonds, and that's it. And maybe their home that they own, but they don't own any precious metals. I'm of the belief that you should have 25%, 10 to 25% of your net worth into precious metals. So including the house you live in, like all of your assets added up together after your debt, what are you worth? If you're worth $1 million, you should have $250,000 invested in precious metals. That is my belief. And I think that will save you financially for what's coming. Because if stocks, real estate, and bonds all collapse, which I think is inevitable, and they come down 60, 70%, which I think is inevitable, stocks in that environment will do, precious metals in that environment will do unbelievable. Like similar to 2008 or in the late 1970s when traditional assets do poorly, everybody rushes into precious metals. Because when you're scared and you don't know where to put your money, the first thing is to put it in the bank and keep it safe, keep being US dollars, being Canadian dollars. But then you're going to be sitting on that money. You're going to be like, okay, now what do I do with this money? It's just sitting here losing to inflation. It's got to be put in somewhere. Precious metals will be the place that people, historically, that's where they go. When stocks are going, when they're underwater and they're not performing well and real estate's going down and the economy is struggling and there's a war going on, everything happening in the world today is very, very bullish for precious metals. But the retail market isn't in yet. We're starting to see people rush in. We really are. We're seeing more people investing into precious metals than we ever have before. But it's still early on.
But if
We're nowhere.
people would have came to you in early 2025, They would have seen returns. And say if I had hypothetically $1 million and I came to you and I go, I'm going to diverse 20%, 200 grand in gold and silver, you would have seen returns of 70% return in gold and 200% return in silver.
Yeah,
That's
your two hundred
amazing.
thousand
I
dollar
know I would be
investment would
really
be worth.
happy with my financial advisor if he told me to do that.
Well, I mean, it's not going to happen. It's not. I'll be honest with you. We have thousands of people that have bought precious metals from us in the past. Less than five of those people are financial advisors. So at the end of the day, they don't. The financial advisors. It's not that they're trying to give bad advice. They actually don't understand gold and silver. They're not buying it for themselves either. They don't see any reason to own it because they don't really understand the purpose of it or how it works as a hedge against inflation or how it works against a hedge against the entire portfolio and all of the risk and uncertainty of a war or a black swan event or a banking crisis or inflation. That's what gold and silver is. Gold and silver is insurance, and that's how people need to look at it. People are not prepared for what's coming. People are sitting in their stocks and in their real estate and thinking everything is fine. They got their job still. But there's going to come a point there. Some people are going to lose their jobs. Some people are going to lose 50, 60% of their stock portfolio. Okay, your real estate value is going to go down 30, 40%. And when that happens, what are you going to do to make up for that? There's nothing you can do. But that's why you got to be hedged, because if that happens, precious metals will skyrocket and it will save your entire portfolio and save your net worth. So that's why I'm so passionate about it. I think it's very, very important time to be hedged, because if you're not and you're just sitting in traditional assets, you're going to get wiped out in this reset. I think this is the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of our world over the next 5 to 10 years. I really do. If you're stuck holding the bag, which is the US dollar or the Canadian dollar, if you're stuck sitting in that and that's where your whole life savings are, you're screwed. Or stocks. I mean, you could see a 60, 70% correction in the stock market and nobody would be surprised. I mean, nobody that understands cycles and the history of the stock market would be surprised. But the person who would be surprised is probably your financial advisor, because they just always say, stay the course, stay the course, hold on to your assets. That's bad. That's not good advice. You have to rebalance your portfolio every single year. And if your financial advisor didn't rebalance your portfolio in the first month of January to actually include precious metals, to me that is it's reckless and it's irresponsible. You have to pay attention to what's
And
happening.
I
You
think
have
you'll
to protect.
sleep better at night knowing that. Like if you were, like you said, be diverse, and even if you had 10 or 15% in metals, I think you'd
Right.
sleep like a baby, because if all hell breaks loose on those traditional assets, that 15% is going to skyrocket and you'll be okay. You don't lose your fortune. Uh,
Yeah, personally, like I said, I think silver can go up 10 to 20 to 30 times from here, just in the next 5 to 7 years. That'll save you financially. If you put 100 grand into silver and it goes up 20 times, I mean, you make $2 million. That can save your whole family financially for what's coming. But if you're just stuck in stocks and your stocks go down 50% and your real estate goes down 30%, and that's all you own, I mean, I don't know how you make up for that. I really don't.
And even the guys that, all their, what I don't understand is the upper echelon of society, the guys that made their millions through entrepreneur or whatever the case may be, but they have millions and they don't own 1 ounce of silver or gold. And I know I would be terrified if I made all that. Like I'm 50, I made all this money for 40 years, worked my ass off, and I don't have any financial insurance if the shit hits the fan. I really don't understand that mentality.
It's just not understood, right? I mean, at the end of the day, gold and silver are money. Gold and silver is a store of wealth. That is wealth. That is what wealth is. I mean, like you said, you sleep well at night. I sleep well at night knowing that I have gold and silver. To me, my wealth is safe, it's protected, it's in my possession, it's outside of the banking system. I don't care what happens. The stock market could completely collapse. The financial system could go down. The banking system can go down. Everything can go to zero and crash, which is very, very possible. And if that happens, I don't care. Yeah, I'm gonna feel bad for friends and family that people that lose. Of course, I'm not an animal, but at the end of the day, I'm personally gonna be okay because my family's protected because I have insurance in precious metals and cryptocurrencies. I mean, if you don't have any of those,
Yeah, a little bit more. Let's get in depth. And you've been really making a big name for yourself. You've been the reoccurring guest on Wall Street Bullion, which is one of the biggest precious metals podcasts. And this new year too, you're getting in. So I think from Windsor for sure, you are the precious metal experts. You're the go-to guy. But I think you're really making a name for yourself in all of Canada. Um, so to elaborate, let's give a little insight because this. What silver would you recommend? And I know you touched a lot of it on Wall Street Bullion. Is government versus private mint, and then talk about coins, rounds, bars. What do you recommend for someone starting off?
so starting off, I would definitely say getting 1 ounce denominated coins or rounds would be my recommendation. I know I mentioned this recently, but I think the biggest mistake people make in the silver community is the first time they buy the big bars. They look cool, the 100 ounce bars.
I know it's
They're
attractive to
they're
me too. I always wanted the big bar. Like,
they're really
yeah,
nice. I mean, they're cool to have.
yeah,
It's a nice showpiece, but at the end of the day, in the future, that 100 ounce bar might be worth 200, $300,000.
right.
So you may not want to own that because it's such a now it's a valuable piece. You may not want to sell that whole 200,000. You may only want to sell 10,000,
Yeah,
but you can't. You got to sell the whole thing,
yeah.
and then you got to buy back, which is really really expensive. Not to mention, it's going to be more difficult for you to liquidate, and it's going to have to go into your bank account. It's going to trigger capital gains. So I mean, there's a lot of reasons you want to own the 1 ounce for bartering purposes. If the banking system goes down, what are you going to do with that 100 ounce bar? Nothing. The 1 ounce coins, though, you can barter with. You can use them. You can use them to buy groceries. You can use them to buy gas, whatever you might need. Where that 100 ounce bar, you're not going to be able to do anything with it. The other downside to the 100 ounce bar is when you go to sell to a dealer, they may not have the funds available to pay you. So you may have to wait until they sell it to their wholesaler, which might take 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you need the money right away, it's going to be very difficult to get your money right
So what
away
do
if you're
you
selling that.
recommend? Like,
1 ounce coins for me, Royal Canadian Mint, right now because they're still available.
okay.
There's going to come a point in the next really near future where you're not going to be able to get those anymore. The U.S. Eagles are almost impossible to get right now, so the premiums are starting to go higher on the government minted coins. That's what
So can I
happens.
get
So
them
I would
from
say,
you, Can-Am Bullion? Can I buy 1 ounce RCM, Royal
yeah, you
Canadian?
can buy on our website, canambullion.ca or canambullion.com, or you can come into our store on Dougal Avenue. So yeah, I mean, they're available at this point,
Right, but they're not
but they're
going to be
getting more difficult.
available soon.
They're not because we're waiting 5 weeks now for it,
Wow.
and not everybody has it. A lot of our wholesalers are like, "Sorry, we don't know when," because Royal Canadian Mint has told the wholesalers, "We're not sure when we're going to get more available."
Right.
So we're waiting for news from the Royal Canadian Mint.
Wow.
We can get some in 5 weeks, but after that,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen. How much longer is the Royal Canadian Mint going to make us wait for new product? We don't know. The U.S. Mint, same thing. So that's why I say buy Canadian Mint right now because there's going to come a time you're not going to be able to buy it. And those will go up 30, 40% more because you can't get them. Not to mention, as a dealer, when I buy back from a client, I want to buy back Maple Leafs because it's the most popular thing I sell in the store. If you come sell me some obscure thing or even a collectible, you're going to get less for it because I'm not going to be able to sell it back to my
Yeah.
customers. But I know I'm going to sell my Royal Canadian Mint coins to my customers, so I'm going to pay you a nice premium on those
Ah,
coins when you come to sell.
okay. That's
So that's another good reason to buy the 1 ounce coins. The other thing would be the Buffaloes, the private mint. So the only difference between private mint and a government mint is the government deems it as currency, like your Royal Canadian Mint coins. Um, I don't have any in front of me, but you can basically return them and get what the stamped value is, which is only $5, which doesn't make any sense because it's worth 130 at this point. But the government stamps it with $5, so it's deemed as currency. The privately minted rounds like the Buffaloes are not deemed as currency, But at the end of the day, you're buying it for the silver content anyway. So you can save a little bit of money by buying the buffaloes. They're also globally well recognized. That's the most popular privately minted round in the world. It's got an Indian head on one side and a buffalo on the other. Highly recommend those as well. So I would definitely stick to 1 ounce denominations. Now, if you're coming in with $1 million, that's different. Now you can buy some 100 ounce bars, some 10 ounce bars, and some 1 ounce
Right.
rounds. But if you're coming in with 5, 10 grand, 20 grand, just do all 1 ounce denominations. You'll be happy you did in the future.
Okay, Michael, let's end off. Let's get a prediction for you. Where do you see what is so the silver price right now? Maybe we'll talk in US dollars. What is the silver price right now? I'm going to look it
I
up.
think it's just over 93, 93, 94.
Yeah, so 94, and it's up for almost 5% today.
So all-time high today. We're making another all-time
So
high. I mean, I
94.
think we'll be $100 by the end of the week.
Wow. Now, what is your
Um,
prediction for 2026 silver? Where is it going to be? I'd like to hear your prediction.
I wish we were doing last year's prediction right now. I nailed that
You
one.
nailed that
But
one.
this
Let's
is, I
do it
mean,
again, back to back. Hold on.
yeah,
We need a
yeah.
drum
So
roll.
it makes me not confident. I mean,
Yeah.
to be conservative, I'll say 150 to 200
Okay.
US.
150 to 200
Conservative.
US. Wow.
That's conservative.
Okay.
I
So,
think you can easily go 200 to 300 US. And we're at 90 right now. So you can make 2 to 300% returns in the next 12 months.
wow.
Now, again, that doesn't mean it has to happen.
Yeah.
But if you fast forward, I think it's better to look at an investment 5 to 10 years out. Trying to predict pricing in 1 year to me, is not even a good idea.
Yeah.
If you own an asset or you're buying silver this year, you got to be able to say, you know what, I can hold this asset for at least 5 years. If you can't hold an asset for 5 years, you probably shouldn't be buying it.
Right.
That would be my advice. So silver, if you look 5 years down the road, I think 500-600 an ounce US, $1,000 an ounce US is very possible.
So,
So you can make
hold on a second. So, if you bought today at 94 and it went to 500, what is that percentage? That's like a,
500% return.
oh, God.
But I think you're going to be, I think you'll be 10xing. I think you'll be over $900 by the end of the decade.
Wow.
I really do. I think you're going to see major shortages. I think the silver is going to run out. I think there's going to be a rush into precious
Oh,
metals.
my Lord.
I think the traditional assets, you're going to see a bear market at some point in the stock market. You're going to see a bear market in the real estate market. I think that's already started. I think we topped out a couple years ago. And now I think I don't think there's any positivity when it comes to stocks or real estate or bonds. I think the only positive asset class you can look at is commodities, and gold and silver will be the leaders in that bull market.
They were the top performing assets in 2025. I don't see it stuck.
By far, not even close. I mean, silver is the best year since 1979, and in 1979 it went up over 700%. So that's coming. We're going to have a year in the next 5 years where silver goes up 5, 6, 700% in 1 year. Because the one thing you got to realize in the silver market, 10% of the last 10% of the move is 90% of the price action. So 90% of that move will happen in the last 10% of the time. So that last year or two in this bull market is going to be the big move. So that move we saw already from $12 to $90, that's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The big move is next, and that's going to be $90 to $1,000. That's coming, and I think it's going to come in the next 3 to 4 years.
Wow, that's insane. I mean, that's a good way to end this podcast on a positive note. For the viewers out there, this podcast is everything you need to know about the silver investing. Below in the caption, we're going to leave you the cannonbullion.com and .ca link to buy online. And if you need help, we're going to leave you a consultation link. And you could book a meeting with one of Michael's precious metals experts or Michael himself and get started. Let's start diversifying. It's 2026. This is episode 32. We got some exciting guests coming your way in the precious metals world this year on the Gold Awakening podcast. This is the podcast you can't afford to miss. With Michael Piccioni and myself, Marcello, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.